Attack on the West. The reason why I decided to write Attack on the West, which, while reflecting on the terrible face of conflict, espionage, war and military action against civilian populations by dictators, also asks many questions. Hi, I am Barry J. Thornton. I feel that I have truly been one of the fortunate in life, having a wonderful wife and family, plus also been doubly blessed by being brought up in a fantastic family located within the Western world, where life and its values were part of our daily existence. The 1950s, 60s and 70s were a time of unparalleled security and peace for us. During this time I grew up, developed patents from an early age, established my businesses and prospered. Many attended my courses on businesses and technology. This time of peace did not continue into the 1980s and 1990s, when the communists set nearly every state in Africa, also in the Middle East, Far East and South America, on fire. This chaos reached the borders of South Africa, resulting in bombs going off, people dying. It became quite chaotic. The army was constantly on the borders to try and stop people flooding across who were starving in those nations that had gone communist. It was chaos, absolute chaos. I was blessed as my company, with great difficulty I must add, continued to prosper. I sold the business and left South Africa when I could see, one night at a party through a telescope, riots in the townships and people dying there and then. I could see the people being burned and people being knifed through that telescope. I warned the guests at that dinner party that that chaos was going to arrive in the city. I left before it did. Some followed my course out of South Africa, and others today are trapped. What are we seeing today? The question arises time after time down the ages, and being a historian, I can mention people, many false leaders, who just killed and killed and killed. And the question is, should man be allowed freedom to live his life, or to be subject to the rule of corrupt, murderous dictators such as today's Assad or Stalin or Saddam Hussein or many others? In the West, do we see the protecting hand of the divine being withdrawn and our freedoms lost? The answer to these questions is yes and no, depending on your perception. What I do see as a student of Yahweh's Bible is an astounding fulfillment of prophecy that at the present moment is like an avalanche. During the 60s and 70s and 80s, we never saw anything like we're seeing today. And that fulfills the prophecies in the Bible that says at the end time it will become very intense. In other words, you'll have earthquakes. It said, in Matthew 24, you have earthquakes, you will have these things happening. But when you see them happening with an intensity as you see today, then you know the time of the end is nigh. Is the hell of ongoing war our destiny? Are we all fated to be led by one false messiah after another, such as Hitler, Stalin, Pol Pot, etc., down the road to war and destruction to satisfy these leaders' own egos and lust to dominate, and if they can't, destroy life and property because they have failed? Or, after a short but devastating tribulation, is the kingdom of heaven to be established on earth? Attack on the West visits all these subjects and a lot more, while continuing with a fast, dynamic action story to keep the reader involved. Attack on the West, you can get it at Amazon at that address there if you copy it or put it in your browser, you will get to it. Thank you very much for listening, and I hope you enjoy the book. It is something that I feel was quite important. And now, of course, the second one will be even more important because it visits stuff that, quite frankly, few seem to know about. Thank you very much.